acharya prefix to Ramchandra Shukla's name. Even out, he only completed his intermediate studies. In today's literary world, he will be talking about Acharya Ramchandra Shukla. The reason to title Acharya is prefixed to Ramchandra Shukla's name is due to his profound scholarship in literature. The place that Ramchand and Nirala hold in Hindi literature is the same place that Ramchandra Shukla hold in Hindi literary criticism. He laid the foundation of literary theory. He wrote the history of Hindi literature and provided practical criticism of Hindi literature. For this, he prepared study materials. Ramchandra Shukla was born on October 14, Agona village of Basti district. He breathed his last on February 2, 1941. He lived in Kashi throughout his life. He received his early education in Mirzapur. He completed this examination in 1901. Then he completed his intermediate studies from Kayasth Pathshala, Prayag. His further studies were entirely through self-study. His childhood was spent in Awadh. He studied Urdu, English, Bengali and Hindi language and literature in depth. While living in Mirzapur, he came into contact with Chaudhry Badri Narayan Prem Ghan, an important writer of the Bhartendra era. He assisted him in his work for the Anand Kadambini magazine from 1903 to 1908. During this time, his understanding of language and editing developed. This is where his literary journey took a new direction. His essay, What is Poetry?, was published in Saraswati magazine in 1909. After this, his literary career began to soar. Even today, when a critic comments on a poet, they first check what Acharya Shukla has said about that poet. Criticism, literary theory, editing, history of Hindi literature, writing poetry and stories, memoirs, and other genres. He made significant contribution in all these fields. He freed Hindi criticism from the influence of Sanskrit poetics. His work, Mimamsa, is significant from this perspective. In 1927, he wrote The Development of the Hindi Language, which later formed the basis of his history of Hindi literature. He also wrote Brahmargitsar and Jaisi Granthavali. This work was published in 1928 and a revised edition appeared in 1941. Shuklaji used to say that his aim was to establish a solid and systematic framework for his literature, not merely to praise poets. Expressing his perspective on the history of literature, he wrote that the literature of every country is a cumulative reflection of the collective consciousness of its people. Therefore, it is certain that as the collective consciousness of the people changes, the form of literature also changes. Examining this tradition of collective consciousness from beginning to end and demonstrating its harmony with the literary tradition is what constitutes the history of literature. The collective consciousness of the people is largely shaped by political, social, communal, and religious circumstances. He also established the periodization of literary history. He divided literature into the ancient period and medieval period and the modern period. He further divided the medieval period into two parts, the early medieval period and the later medieval period. He termed the early period as the period of heroic ballads, the early medieval periods as the Bhakti period, the late medieval period as the Riti period, and the modern period as the prose period. His works can be divided into three phases: the Mirzapur period, the period of the Nagari Pracharini Sabha, and the era of the Hindi department at Banaras Hindu University. His writing began in Mirzapur. One of his stories was published in 1903 titled 11 Years, around 1901. His articles began to be published in the then prestigious magazine Saraswati. In 1898, He translated Edison's work under the title The Joy of Imagination. Between 1903 and 1908, he served as the assistant editor of Chaudhary Badri Narayan Premghan's magazines Anand Kadambani. During this time, he wrote memoirs and biographies of Hindi writers. This includes his writing on Premghan's memories and life. Chintamani is a collection of his writings published in 4 parts. His books are quite important for the UPSC Hindi Mains Examination. Chintamani Part 1 was published in 1939. It contains 10 essays on emotions and psychological states and 7 other essays. Chintamani Part 2 was published in 1945, edited by Vishwanath Prasad Mishra. Later in 1983, Chintamani Part 3 was published, containing 21 essays, edited by Namwar Singh. In 2002, Chintamani Part 4 was also published, edited by Kusum Chaturvedi and Om Prakash Singh. It contains 47 essays. These essays are divided into 2 categories: literary essays on psychological states and critical essays. Shukla ji believed that all of a person's actions are driven by emotion. No one acts solely on intellect. From a political perspective, he was anti-imperialist. He was against racial oppression, linguistic discrimination, and cultural humiliation. He believed in the freedom struggle driven by emotional fervor. He was not a supporter of Gandhi's ideologies. Ramchandra Shukla has written more about human emotions than any other writers. He analyzed every human emotion, and reading his works allowed you to understand your own emotions. After understanding your emotions, you can comprehend their direction and consequences. He wrote that the fundamental experience of joy and sorrow takes on the complex form of emotions such as love, enthusiasm, surprise, anger, compassion, hatred, etc. He wrote that enmity is the essence of concentrated form of anger. Regarding essay, he said that the full power of language can be seen in the essay. The essay is the most influentially literary from the modern era. The development of the essay is linked to the press and literary journalism. Essay hold an important place in magazines even today. Editors, writers, articles, and data are in a way inspired by essays. They encompass a wide range of topics. Essay can only be understood by the educated class. The essayist possesses some new ideas. In this way, the credit for the shaping the structure of Hindi literature goes to Acharya Ramchandra Shukla.